For those of you that don't know, my name is Miles. Now, I have been dying to make a video about Taboo, as it's probably my new favorite show. Just amazing in almost every way. But I was a little late to the game, so I figured the best place to start would be the finale. Now, I'll also be doing a few more Taboo videos soon, but hey, I just want to talk about that finale, because what a finale it was. So, let's talk some Taboo. Alright guys, let's get into it. Let's talk about the Tom Hardy show. Wait, I'm sorry, no, it is the James Delaney show. Wait, hold back. Taboo. The Taboo season finale. That's what we're getting into. I have been dying to make that joke. The show is all about Tom Hardy. I mean, it makes sense because it's such a good character. He's a producer on the show. You know, it makes sense that his character is just the whole show, and it's so perfect. I'm not sure if he's the devil or Jesus or just a mysterious nothingness that just appeared from Africa, but what I do know is I am infatuated with that character. Where we left off right before the finale is the torture of James Delaney, and of course, he doesn't give a flying F. He just takes it, lets it go. It's like his only goal is to get a meeting for Stuart Strange. And right as we left, you know, he's still in the cell, but they finally arranged that meeting. Of course, James has a use for Sir Stuart Strange. And right as we begin, we figure out what that is. And he writes his account of the slave ship on a piece of paper, and he shows it to Stuart. He has no use for that, by the way, which is the most genius part. He was never planning on giving it to anyone. He doesn't even need it. He says it multiple times. I don't even need this piece of paper because, you know, I'm just meeting with a bunch of the king's aides and guards and lawyers. I don't need this paper. He just wants something tangible that he can give to Stuart for two things. One being a ship, which he desperately needs after the East India Company blows up his last one. And he gets the wenches free that told his story against them. But he understands, you know, he knows exactly why that happened. He doesn't care. He thinks basically he would have done the same thing in their shoes. It just had to happen. But Stuart, for whatever reason, is more than happy to take that deal, probably because he doesn't want to die, and he still thinks that things are going his way, thinks that he's one step ahead of James Delaney when everyone makes that mistake. You're never one step ahead of James Delaney. He's always like 10 steps ahead of you. The deal goes through. Sir Stuart Strange drops the charges. There's no more testimonies, as they are now in his company's charge, the wenches that is. And so, going forward from there, next thing we see is James Delaney and Solomon Cooper's meeting, as well as a bunch of lawyers and guards and all that jazz. And of course, James Delaney had no intention of ever giving up the names. You know, if his plan didn't work, if he wasn't the world's biggest genius at the time, he still would have taken down those names in a blaze of glory, the Americans, the rebels, everyone that helped him. You know, he doesn't care. He would just stick it to the king. Like, he would rather do that than give up any kind of name to anyone else. Not only that, he gets freed right there. I mean, if you were Solomon Cooper, how would you even let him go? You just shoot him. I do think that he should have died right there. I mean, you know he committed treason. You know he's a bad dude. You don't let the company and James screw over the prince like that. I think more realistic that would have happened, but of course, you know, we can't have James Delaney die as the best character ever made ever. Next thing I want to talk about is Atticus shooting the company members right in the head. I mean, just like, he gets out and just points the gun at him. Guy's freaked out. Says they have a deal, you know, your master and my master have an accord. They're gonna die. I think we know that from the very beginning. These people are evil. The whole show is about slavery and how wrong it is and how inhumane it is. There's no way the three worst, highest people in the company are going to live. Or so we think, anyway. You know, it could have gone any other way, but I think we're all right about that. Anyway, shoots him in the head. Wenches, Helga, and the other girl are released to Atticus, and then we move forward. James is released. He goes out, meets everyone. And then, obviously, the prince is, saying everyone must hang for this. James Delaney, the Americans, blah, blah, everyone has to hang. Which is, again, why I think it's a little bit unrealistic that James wouldn't get killed beforehand. But here we are again. So there's this epic battle that'll rage on. We'll touch on in a second. First, I want to get into the East India Company and the rest of the people that die. So Stuart Strange, I'm sad to see him go. Sure, he's an evil dude, sure. But he's a great actor, great character. Even though he was the mastermind behind the whole thing, I sort of thought that he would live, if anyone. And of course, the massive explosion from the Doctor was very cool, very unexpected. Right when he's so happy and thinks that he was one step ahead of James. You're never one step ahead of James. Never. But the other guy gets killed as well. Less cool of a story, but there we are. So James is about to meet everyone at the ship. Everything starts to resolve itself. We start getting real closure to every part of the story because, they will not be there in that setting for the next season. So it kind of makes sense that every loose end has to be taken care of. First thing I want to talk about is James's sister, Zilpha, tragically kills herself. I'm not sure exactly why she's crazy. I think it's pretty safe to say that she is, in fact, crazy. And she jumped off a bridge, killed her husband, whatever. My main thought is that every crazy, stupid thing that her husband did to her would have to drive anyone insane. However, James also sees a little bit of his mother in her, but they have different mothers. So it's a little bit strange to me. I was thinking maybe it's something to do with the father that James doesn't know about. Things that would explain why James and the mother have the same tattoos. I don't know. It's a stretch, but we haven't gotten there yet. I'm sure that's going to be a big part of the next season. But James is upset mostly because, one, he's in love with her. No matter what he said, he would have always loved her. James is just that kind of guy to not let a person go from his life. And also, James talks to the dead. We've pretty much known this for a while, but it's been confirmed definitely in this one that the dead talk to him, they sing to him, and he can't hear his sister. So what does this mean? I'm not sure, but at the end, he does get to hear it. He can envision it, he can see it. Whether or not he's crazy and it just took him a while to process it, to accept it, I'm not sure. I think we'll find out more later. Again, I think that'll be the major part of the next season, is really getting into the voodoo that he gets into. Next thing I want to talk about is him and Brace. He won't let Brace come with him, which is key to the story. Brace is a major part of the show. He and his dad were like his role models, his guardians growing up. So Brace not coming with was a huge shock to me. I sort of thought that James had forgiven Brace for the killing of his father. I think that, if he hadn't forgiven him, things would have gone very differently. James has no problem killing those who slight him. He has no problem killing those that even stand in his way. So someone that killed his father, that he thought really murdered him, I think James would have no problem just ending it right there at the end. Just like, oh, before you go, shoots him in the head. He doesn't do that. I still think he understands what Brace did was fine. I literally think that because of Brace's attitude, that Brace doesn't really understand what James is all about. He's like, you can't go with me. Brace is crying, Brace is emotional. Brace definitely thinks of James as his son, but unfortunately that bond had to end, and we had to move on. Next thing I want to get into is that James found a leak in the American spies, that the American doctor was actually working for the East India Company the whole time. And it makes sense. I get it. I can see the little bits and the pieces that they, added up to that. Still, I think it's a bit of a stretch. He really figures it out off of one line, about the sheep being wool and meat. But, it makes sense. I just think it could have been developed further. Not a weak point of the show, just a could have been better point of the show, because I think the show itself is great, as I've already said. But James goes there just to confirm his suspicions. The American doctor doesn't even deny it, and James kills him pretty roughly and hangs him in colors, which is just an amazing symbol for what he really believes in. I believe that they're British colors as well. Could be wrong about that. So at the end of the episode, it's a massive firefight, but James is able to leave for America, which in my opinion was his plan the whole time. And I have to say, in my opinion, because there's several lines and actions in the show that James goes through that just do not make it seem like that. For instance, one of them saying that everyone that helps him is like one of the damned and they're all like doomed to die. Yeah, James says that, but part of me thinks that's just him trying to get this persona of being the deviliest devil that ever deviled. Because he needs that for people to be afraid of him to do what they want. Now, I don't think he enjoys killing people. I think he just thinks it's a necessity, as he is a badass, and that's just sort of his way of going about things. Let me know your thoughts on this. It could have been his craziness. It could have been a little bit of bad writing. I don't think that's the case, though, with how well the show was produced and like everything was thought of. But let me know your thoughts again. I'm very curious. So we're getting that massive firefight, and 3 people are terribly injured and 1 dead. The one who died is, of course, Helga. And I gotta say, it's karma. I have to. She went up against James. Helga thought that James killed her daughter. It was, of course, the East India Company. James was cool with it. James still wanted her to come with. However, just don't go up against Delaney. You will die if you go against Delaney. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few seasons, episodes, what have you, that Solomon and or the prince die. I just think it's a very high real possibility because they do not want James to live, and we know that for sure. But again, it's a little bit of karma. I think it had to happen. Just had to be symbolic in that way. But moving forward, the Doctor gets blown up by his own stuff. It's dangerous. I think that kind of had to happen eventually with all the dangerous shenanigans they've gone through with the powder, his explosions. They never really backfired until now, so it's actually kind of realistic to me that at one point they did. However, he is alive, and another person who was shot was the actress Bo. So Bo she passed out, she fainted. Both make it onto the ship, but I'm wondering how they survive, as the scientist actually is the doctor for the crew. So I think it's something to look out for if they sustain any real injuries, any illnesses based off that. It's very likely. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but many people died crossing from Europe to the Americas based on illness, lack of food, what have you. Any number of things can kill them. So getting really badly shot right before that cannot be good for you. But we see James's ship set sail. Most of the people that we like make it on there. And he sets for freedom, which is the best ending I could have imagined. Just James sailing off towards freedom. It's what he's been after this whole time. He hates the company. He hates Britain. He hates the king. He can never be free under those people. And I'm glad that now we actually get to see a free Delaney. And I wonder how this is going to change him, but I don't think it will. I think he will always be the same Tom Hardy, James Delaney, badass, mega just in charge of everything that we have grown to love. And we'll see. Alright guys, I loved making this video. I loved this finale. I loved this season. Everything was great. Finale I'd probably rate like 9.7 out of 10. Season 9.2. I mean, it's so good and we're just getting started. And I can't wait to see how they develop everything. Be on the lookout for a season review. I'll get more into everything there. And of course, some theory videos coming up. And as soon as I get some more information on season 2, I'll be doing those as well. But that about does it for me. If you liked what you saw, like that video, subscribe to our channel. There's a whole bunch of good stuff on our channel, so please check it all out if you can. And I really appreciate you guys viewing. It really means a lot to me. And until next time, take care.